I have a headache so fucking bad it woke me up. I have a headache that's impervious to codeine and ibuprofen. So what would be a better time to terminate with extreme prejudice and escaping atheism video? This one claims to have scientific evidence for God. Ooh, I can hardly wait. The whole thing is prefaced with a fallacy of redefinition, which is to merely define God as reality itself, or the engine that drives reality. Well, like I say, that's a fallacy of redefinition. Everyone understands a God to be a conscious directing entity, not just reality itself. I mean, you can call a pickle a bicycle, but you can't ride it to work. So, right off the bat, bullshit. We're going to be largely ignoring that, because that's just an attempt to redefine God to be anything. Whereas most religions understand it to be a directing force. So, fallacy, whoosh, gone. Next. Following a whole bunch of preemptive attempts to invalidate anyone that might talk against this. Oh, you must be a scientist. Oh, you must show your credentials. Oh, you must put your name to this. All that bullshit finally gets onto this point, and disappointingly, so disappointingly, it's, oh, look at all these shiny cosmological constants. Aren't they great for us? Yes, if things were different, they'd be different, and we, or something like us, might be in that alternative universe talking about how that universe was perfect for our kind of life. This is just utterly destroyed by a couple of things. One, that all these cosmological constants appear to be interrelated. Two, that they can be different to varying degrees and you can still have a physical universe. Three, that this universe is far, far, far from perfect. I can't even be bothered. It's that debunked. It's that stupid. Do not ever make this argument if you're trying to make an argument for God, because it's the puddle argument that Douglas Adams made. Oh, you know, the water in the ditch, saying, "Oh, look, this puddle, this ditch must have been made for me. Look how perfectly I fit into it." No, we fit the universe. The universe does not fit us. For fuck's sake, bring your A game. Could that form evidence for God? Not without showing that it's directed. At the moment, all you're doing is you're saying, oh, look at this apparently ordered universe. God did it. Yeah, there's a huge leap in the middle there. You need to show, you need to evidence that this was directed. It's not enough to merely assert it. It's not enough to just say that it was, or it must have been directed. Otherwise you run into the same fault that theists did before evolution came along, and evolution destroyed that. And given that we have evidence now for multiverse theory, you're on a losing kick there. Right? You're going to be disproven in all likelihood, and you cannot provide any evidence for your position. You're just making an argument from incredulity, which is another fallacy. So, gone. Next. The next claim's rather bewildering and makes no sense whatsoever. Okay, so he goes on to accept evolution and to say that, okay, that's a thing and that people have evolved and whatever, but then tries to assert that religion is an evolved thing. Okay, let's take that at face value. That would not mean God was real. It would mean that believing nonsense would have survival utility. That wouldn't make it right, that wouldn't make it accurate, that wouldn't make it real. It would just mean that believing nonsense was in some way useful, aided survival. I can think of ways that could be. It could help form communities. In the absence of medicine, some scientists have asserted that, believing nonsense can help psychologically to deal with injuries and illnesses and so on. Basically, an institutional placebo effect. So that's all possible, but it says absolutely fuck all about the reality of a god. Absolutely nothing. And children do not have inset, basic religious beliefs hardwired into them. They may have a tendency, they may have flaws. I think religion is basically a mimetic parasite that latches on to flaws in human psychology. But children are not born with religious beliefs. How do we know that? Because they only grow up into whatever belief is dominant around them, right? There's no exterior force giving them that. And if they're in a majority atheist country, they don't grow up with any religious beliefs whatsoever. There's a huge variety, can't all be right, can all be wrong. Some of them are not even religions in a way that people like Dean would even acknowledge. And feral children have no religion. So just toss that entire idea out. It doesn't provide any evidence for the existence of God at all, and it's not true. Next. Oh, and here's the difference between God and any other imaginary friend. God belief is an epidemic, whereas imaginary friends are singular infections. That's the difference. A child can look at religion and see that lots and lots of people believe it. It doesn't make it valid, it doesn't make it any different to any other imaginary friend, other than it's been codified and lots of people have been infected by it. Yeah, and that's another good example of a way to look at this argument. You're essentially arguing that because people get diseases are good. No, that's not how it works. It just means you're susceptible to infection. That's it. God, fuck's sake. Bring me something good, something interesting, something difficult to debunk. This one's kind of weird because it opens up talking about all these tech billionaires who have apparently bought into the idea that we live in a simulated reality. This is an assertion with no evidence. It's based on an odds argument, basically, that in the future, from our perspective, perfect virtual realities will be possible, multiples of them will be possible. Huge computational matrices will be possible, and so the odds are that virtual universes will outnumber real universes, and therefore it's more likely that we're in a virtual universe. But there's no evidence of this. It's just a crazy idea that's apparently held onto by a few nutbar tech billionaires who probably also buy into all kinds of new age bullshit, because for some reason that happens with engineers. They get hooked into these ideas. It means absolutely nothing. It's not evidence of anything. Why even bring it up? It's worthless as a point. There's also a classic, when he finally gets onto quantum mechanics, there is a classic misunderstanding of the observer effect in here. Lots of woo merchants and theists have glommed onto the idea that reality only exists because it's observed, because we know that our observations change things. But it's not just conscious observers that count as observers, it's anything, any interaction of a particle, of a light beam, anything at all counts as an observer. So all it means is that everything is one big interconnected system. It makes no implications about consciousness, it makes no implications about conscious observers, none of that whatsoever. It just means we're in a vast interconnected system. That's literally it. Nothing else. Here's the fucking kicker though. Neither of these things provide any evidence for God. If we live in a virtual universe, so what? Why would that mean there was a God? It wouldn't. In what universe is that virtual universe situated, and how did that come about? If it's a simulation, if it's an accurate simulation, then our simulated universe would look like the real universe, and we would see exactly the same lack of evidence for any kind of actual creator that we see in our universe. So that's fucking nothing. And this quantum woo, it's all bollocks. Look it up. Talk to Claus. Look up the actual meaning of the observer effect and quantum interference and all the rest of it, and you'll see that it's all bollocks, and none of it implies some universal grand observer or anything of the sort. Look it up yourself. No evidence for God here. What's next? NDEs do not constitute evidence for a God. Even if the experience was exactly identical and everybody all that would be an argument for an identical traumatic experience. When you are close to death, your brain releases DMT, all kinds of other chemicals. Your brain is starved of oxygen, and as you pass out and as you come to, you experience hallucinations, memories, and so on. Now, here's the really interesting thing about near-death experiences. Before they were really popularized, in the early experiments, people's near-death experiences were extremely culturally inclined, influenced. So if you were a Hindu and you had a near-death experience, you would experience the Hindu perception of what would happen to you. If you were a Christian, you would experience a Christian version, and so on and so forth. Eventually, what became popularized was this tunnel of light and your family's waiting for you and so on. And that became a meme, and that was passed around hither and yon. And so everyone who's started to have or report near-death experiences started to report similar things. This is not dissimilar to what happened with grey aliens. If you look at earlier UFO reports, they're way more creative. There's much more variety, from hairy dwarves in South America to Aryans to glowing balls of light to all sorts. But as the grey alien meme took hold, everyone started to report that kind of experience. And the NDE thing is the same. This tunnel of light, this commonality of experience appears to be a meme. People interpreting and experiencing hallucinations that offer no proof whatsoever for God, just through that lens. Yeah, when I dropped a bunch of mushrooms, I experienced images of Aztec gods. Does that make them real? No, it just means mushrooms are real, hallucinations are real, and I've been watching some stuff about Mesoamerican culture on the TV a few nights before. That's really all it means. None of this is proof of anything. Next. You're bringing nothing new to the table, Dean, and that is what's really, really fucking frustrating here. This is old, long debunked arguments. All you have added, the only new thing that you have brought to the table is an attempt to preemptively dismiss and discount anyone who disagrees with you by demanding qualifications, or saying, oh, don't just refer to the debunkings that already exist. Bring us something new. Maybe the best argument against God is that if he was real, he would send people with better fucking arguments, because you guys certainly do not have them. Give me something difficult, for fuck's sake. Give me something challenging. Give me something new. Give me something that's hard to debunk, that hasn't already been done decades ago. Do yourself a fucking favour and Google Talk Origins and see if your argument has been fucking annihilated in the 90s on Usenet before you come out with this shit. For fuck's sake, do better, alright? You're capable of better. Zang.